never thought I'd see the lake again. For nearly 10 years, my family cabin had stood untouched. Sitting quietly on the edge of Silver Pine Lake, life had dragged me away work in the city. Kids grown, my late wife's illness that consumed all my energy until the day she passed. After she was gone, I promised myself I'd go back someday. Back to the cabin where we'd spent summers fishing, laughing, and watching sunsets that painted the water in gold. That day finally came. I pulled up the gravel road, the crunch of tires echoing against the tall pines, my heart pounding. The cabin looked weathered but strong, just as I remembered. The porch sagged a little, the paint had faded, but it was still home. My throat tightened as memories came flooding back, my wife rocking in her chair, my kids running barefoot to the dock, their laughter blending with the calls of loons. I stepped out of the truck, inhaling the crisp lake air. Tears pricked my eyes. "I'm home," I whispered. But then, from across the lakefront path, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Hey, what do you think you're doing here?" I turned and saw her, a woman mid-50s. Platinum blonde hair stiff with hairspray, storming toward me in high heels that made no sense on a lakeside path. She had a clipboard clutched in one hand and a scowl so deep it could curdle milk. "I'm unlocking my cabin," I said cautiously, holding up my keys. "This is my property." Her eyes narrowed. No. That's where you're wrong. This cabin belongs to me. You're trespassing." I blinked. "Excuse me?" She marched right up, jabbing her finger toward my chest. "I'm Karen Phillips, HOA President of Silver Pine Lakes Association. And this," she gestured dramatically at my cabin, "has been under my care for years. You abandoned it. Which means it's ours now." For a moment, I thought she had to be joking. "Ma'am, I built this cabin with my father 30 years ago. It's been in my family since before there even was an HOA. She smirked. "Well, that's unfortunate. For you, because you left. And when you leave property unattended, it falls under community oversight. I've been maintaining it, mowing the grass, keeping watch, which means, in effect, I'm the owner." That's not how property ownership works. Karen crossed her arms, tilting her chin up. "Oh, you'll find out real soon how things work around here. You want to step back in after a decade? Think you can just waltz in like nothing's changed? Not on my watch." Something inside me snapped. "Listen, my wife died. I couldn't bring myself back here until now. This cabin, this lake, it's all I have left of her. And you're telling me it's yours?" For the first time, I saw a flicker of unease cross her face. But it vanished quickly, replaced with cold steel. "Rules are rules. And if you don't leave right now, I'll call the sheriff." I clenched my fists, my heart pounding with grief and rage. But I knew one thing: this fight had just begun. I carried my duffel inside, ignoring her protests, determined not to let her chase me off. Dust covered the floor, cobwebs stretched across the windows, but it still smelled faintly of cedar and lake water. I sat on the old couch, my chest heavy, and then I heard her voice, shrill and furious, carrying from the porch. "Yes, hello. This is HOA President Karen Phillips. I need officers sent to Silver Pine Lake immediately. There's a trespasser here. Dangerous-looking man. He's breaking into my cabin." I bolted upright, rushing to the door. "What are you doing?" I shouted. She gave me a smug smile, phone still pressed to her ear. "Oh, just making sure the law takes care of you." I couldn't believe it. The woman was calling 911, painting me, the actual owner, as some criminal. My stomach churned with dread. This could get messy. 20 minutes later, a patrol car crunched up the road. Out stepped Sheriff Daniels, a tall, broad-shouldered man with graying hair and tired eyes. I recognized him instantly. "We'd gone to high school together, Tom," he asked, squinting. "Daniels," I said with relief. "It's been a while." Before I could say more, Karen jumped in front of him, waving her arms. "Sheriff, thank goodness you're here. This man is an intruder. He forced his way into my cabin and is refusing to leave. I demand you arrest him." The sheriff raised an eyebrow, then looked at me. Tom, what's going on here? I pulled my wallet, showing him the deed and my ID. This is my property. Always has been. I just came back today. Karen's face twisted. He's lying. That paper could be fake. I've been looking after this place for years. Everyone knows it. Daniel sighed, scratching his chin. Karen, I know this man. His family's owned this cabin since before the HOA existed. You can't just claim it. Her jaw dropped. What? You're taking his side? Because it's the truth, he said firmly. For a second, I thought that would end it. But Karen's eyes burned with fury. Oh, you'll regret this. You both will. I'll take this to the HOA board. And trust me, when I'm done, he won't have a leg to stand on. She stormed off, heels clicking against the gravel, leaving behind a silence so thick I could hear my heartbeat. The sheriff gave me a weary look. You're walking into a hornet's nest, Tom. She's been running this place like a queen bee since you left. I swallowed hard. Well, she just picked a fight with the wrong man. That night, I sat on the dock, the moonlight shimmering across the water. My wife's memory felt so close I could almost hear her voice, but peace didn't last. At midnight, headlights swept across the cabin walls. I peeked out the window and my stomach dropped. 3 cars. HOA board members. And in the middle, Karen, holding a flashlight like a weapon. She shouted up at the cabin, her voice echoing over the lake. This is your final warning, trespasser. Leave OUR property or face consequences you can't imagine. Her words cut through the night like knives. I felt rage boiling, but also something else, grief, fear, the weight of being alone against people who wanted to erase my family's history. I whispered into the darkness. I'm not leaving, Sarah. Not again. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a cabin. This was about standing up for everything I loved, everything I'd lost, and I was ready for war. The morning after the midnight standoff, I woke to the sound of gravel crunching outside. My heart jumped. Was it Karen again? I pulled the curtains back and saw a small SUV pulling up. For a split second, my pulse quickened in fear. But then, I recognized the driver, my daughter, Emily. She stepped out, her auburn hair catching the morning sun, a smile breaking across her face as she spotted me on the porch. Dad, she called, rushing over. I opened my arms and hugged her tight, fighting back tears. Emily, you came. She pulled back, eyes softening. I had 2. You sounded different on the phone yesterday, like you were carrying something heavy. She looked around at the cabin. I get it now. This place, it's beautiful. Mom would have wanted us here. The mention of her mother's name made my throat tighten. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe I wasn't so alone in this fight. But then Emily noticed something. She pointed at the lawn. Dad, what's that? I followed her gaze and froze. A bright orange notice was nailed to my front porch post. The words screamed at me. Notice of community claim. Property under review by HOA board. My stomach twisted. I ripped the paper down, my hands shaking. Beneath the bold print, notice claimed the cabin was abandoned property and therefore subject to reassignment of ownership under HOA bylaws. I read it twice, disbelief flooding me. They can't do this. This isn't even legal. Emily frowned, taking the paper from me. Dad, this looks official. They're trying to make it sound like they have real authority. They don't, I said, slamming my fist against the porch railing. But if they convince enough people, it could drag into court. And that's exactly what she wants. Emily's brow furrowed. She? Who's she? Before I could answer, the sound of heels on gravel echoed again. And there she was, Karen Phillips, HOA clipboard in hand, lips pursed like she'd just sucked a lemon. Well, well, she said, her eyes narrowing on Emily. And who is this trespasser? Another squatter? Emily bristled, stepping forward. I'm his daughter. This is our family cabin. And you have no right to post fake legal notices. Karen smirked, tilting her head. Fake. Oh, honey, that's a real HOA claim. We've already filed it with our association lawyer. And once it's processed, this land will officially belong to the community, which means you'll both be out on the street. I took a step closer, my voice low and steady. You listen to me, Karen? This cabin is mine. No HOA paper, no cheap lawyer, no threats are going to change that. My family built this with our own hands. Her eyes glittered with triumph. We'll see what the judge thinks. She turned sharply on her heel and strutted away, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than a storm cloud. That night, as Emily cooked us a simple dinner on the old gas stove, I sat by the fireplace, staring into the flames. Memories surged, so vivid they hurt. I saw my wife Sarah years ago, sitting on this same rug, her laughter filling the room as she helped our kids roast marshmallows. I heard her whisper in my ear on our last visit, "Promise me you'll keep this place. Promise me you'll bring the kids back." I'd broken that promise for years. Grief had kept me away. And now, some arrogant woman wanted to erase everything we had built, everything Sarah loved. Tears blurred my vision. Emily knelt beside me, resting her hand on mine. "Dad, we're not going to lose this place." "Not while I'm here." Her words steadied me. For the first time in years, I felt a fire inside me, a determination stronger than grief. 2 days later, the so-called HOA board arrived in full force. 6 people in matching polos with the Silver Pine Lakes logo marched up the path like they owned the world. Karen led the charge, waving a stack of papers. "We're here to conduct an inspection. Community property must meet safety standards. If it fails, we'll be forced to repossess it." Oh. I stepped onto the porch, crossing my arms. "You're not setting foot in my cabin," Karen sneered. "Refusal of inspection is an automatic violation. That's strike 1. 3 strikes, and we seize the property." Emily laughed bitterly. "This isn't baseball. You don't get to make up laws." Karen shot her a glare. "Watch your mouth, little girl. Your father's about to learn how things work here." I held up my phone, snapping pictures of them. "You're trespassing right now. One more step, and I call the sheriff." For a moment, they hesitated. But Karen raised her chin, whispering loud enough for me to hear, "He won't win. I'll bury him in paperwork until he begs to leave." And then they left. But deep inside, I knew it was only the beginning. That evening, as Emily and I sat on the porch, a figure approached quietly from the shadows. Tom. I looked up and recognized him instantly, Mr. Harlan, our old neighbor. He was in his 70s now, walking with a cane, his eyes kind but weary. "I heard about what's happening," he said softly. "That woman's been trouble since the day she moved in. Thinks the whole lake belongs to her. But I remember you and your father built this cabin before the HOA ever existed. If you need a witness, I'll stand by you." My chest tightened with gratitude. "Thank you, Harlan. That means more than you know." He nodded slowly, then glanced around as if making sure no one was listening. "Careful, though. Karen's not just loud. She's clever, and she doesn't mind bending the law if it gets her way." 2 days later, it happened. A courier arrived with an envelope stamped, "County Records Office." My hand shook as I tore it open. Inside was a notice of ownership transfer filing, naming Karen Phillips as the primary caretaker and rightful owner of my cabin. Attached was a copy of a deed. With a forged signature, my blood ran cold. Emily gasped. "Dad, she actually forged your name." I sank into a chair, the room spinning. This isn't just HOA games anymore. She's trying to steal it for real. For a moment, despair threatened to crush me, but then something inside snapped. I stood, slamming my fist on the table. No more running. No more grieving. She wants a war. She's got one. That night, as thunder rolled over Silver Pine Lake, I sat at the table with Emily, spreading out old documents or regional deeds, tax receipts, photographs of me and my father building the cabin. We were preparing for battle. But then came a knock at the door. When I opened it, Karen stood there in the rain, hair plastered to her face, a wild fire in her eyes. "You think you can beat me?" she hissed. "I own this place now. And tomorrow, you'll be gone for good." Lightning flashed, thunder boomed, and I realized this fight was about to explode in ways I never imagined. The morning after Karen's thunderous threat, I didn't sleep a wink. Rain hammered the roof through the night, and every creak of the cabin felt like the lake itself was warning me. By sunrise, I had spread every old document I owned across the dining table: yellow deeds, tax records, even a photograph of me and my father hammering the last nail into the porch railing. Each paper felt like a lifeline. Emily walked in, her hair messy from sleep, clutching a mug of coffee. "You're still at it?" I rubbed my temples. "We need everything." Karen filed a forged deed. "If this goes to court, we can't just fight. We have to win. Otherwise," my voice cracked, "otherwise, this place is gone." Emily set the mug down, her hand on my shoulder. "Dad, you're not alone in this. Mom would want us to fight together." Her words steadied me. But deep down, a storm raged: anger, grief, and fear all tangled together. Later that day, I drove into town to file a dispute at the county clerk's office. As Emily and I walked out of the building, I froze. Across the street, a crowd had gathered, and in the middle of it, Karen. She was standing on the courthouse steps, waving her clipboard like a queen, addressing her subjects. "Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot let squatters steal community property. This cabin is ours. It belongs to the people of Silver Pine Lake." Some folks clapped half-heartedly. Others looked confused. I marched forward, my voice cutting through her speech. "Stop spreading lies, Karen. That cabin has been in my family for decades. You know it." The crowd turned, murmuring. Karen's smile faltered, but she quickly regained it. "Oh, don't believe his sob story. He abandoned it. We cared for it. We paid dues to maintain the lakefront while he disappeared. That makes us the rightful owners." "Wrong," I said firmly, holding up the original deed. "This is proof. My father and I built it long before your HOA even existed. You can't erase history with lies." A ripple of whispers spread through the crowd. Some nodded at me. Others frowned at Karen, her face flushed red. But she snapped back, "Enjoy your little moment, Tom, because when the board meets next week, you'll be out." That night, I sat alone on the dock while Emily slept inside. The lake shimmered under the moonlight, just like it used to when Sarah and I would sit here together. I closed my eyes, and suddenly I was back in that moment, Sarah's head on my shoulder, her soft voice whispering, "Promise me, no matter what happens, you'll always come back here. This cabin is our heart. Don't let anyone take it away." Tears rolled down my cheeks. "I broke that promise for too long, Sarah, but I won't this time. I swear it." The grief turned to resolve. The fight wasn't just for me anymore. It was for her, for our family, for everything we had built. The next morning, a patrol car pulled into the gravel drive. Sheriff Daniels stepped out, his face serious. "Tom," he said, removing his hat, "we need to talk." I braced myself. "What now?" He sighed. "Karen's filed a harassment complaint against you. Claims you've been threatening her, stalking her, trying to intimidate the HOA board. If this sticks, it could hurt your case." I felt my blood boil. That's insane. She's the one trespassing, nailing notices to my porch, forging deeds. Daniels nodded. "But she's clever. She knows how to twist things. And I'll be honest, some of the board members are scared of her. They back her because it's easier than standing up." Emily stepped out onto the porch, anger flashing in her eyes. "Sheriff, she's trying to ruin our lives. Doesn't the law mean anything?" Daniels looked at her, then back at me. His voice softened. "The law does. But you have to be careful. Keep your cool. Document everything. Don't give her any ammunition." I clenched my fists but nodded. "Thanks, Daniels. I'll fight this the right way." That evening, Emily and I returned from town to find something chilling. The cabin door was ajar. I rushed inside, my heart pounding. The place was ransacked, drawers pulled open, papers scattered, furniture overturned. And on the wall, scrawled in red spray paint, were the words, "Get OUTHOA owns this now." Emily gasped. "Dad, Rage surged through me, but underneath it was fear. Karen wasn't just playing games anymore. She was escalating. We called the sheriff. Daniels arrived, his jaw tightening as he looked at the vandalism. I'll be straight with you. This is bad. But unless we catch her in the act, she'll deny it. She'll probably even claim you staged it yourself. Emily's voice trembled. So what do? Daniels looked at me squarely. We build a case. Solid evidence. Witnesses. Proof she's crossing the line. It's the only way to shut her down. 2 nights later, as the cabin settled into silence, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find a man standing there mid-40s, wearing the Silver Pine HOA polo. He looked nervous, glancing over his shoulder. Mr. Harris? He asked quietly. Yes, I'm Greg, HOA treasurer. He swallowed hard. I need to tell you something. Karen's planning to push a vote at the board meeting. She's going to present that forged deed and claim the property is hers. But he hesitated. Some of us are tired of her. We know she's lying. If you show up with the real documents, I'll back you. And I think others will too. Hope flickered in my chest. Why are you telling me this? He sighed, his shoulders slumping. Because she's gone too far. This isn't about the community anymore. It's about her ego. And I can't keep watching her destroy people. Emily stepped forward. Will you testify if it comes to it? Greg nodded. If it comes to court, yes. But be careful. If she finds out I talked to you, she'll make my life hell. The next morning, Emily and I packed a folder with every scrap of proof we had. Deeds, tax records, photographs, even old letters addressed to this cabin. As we prepared to head to the HOA meeting, I glanced out the window. Across the lake, Karen stood on her porch, staring at us through binoculars. Her lips curled into a cold, knowing smile. Emily whispered, Dad. She looks like she's already won. I shook my head, gripping the folder tight. Not this time. Today the truth comes out. But deep inside, a chill ran through me. Because with Karen, the truth was never enough. She always had another trick waiting. The Silver Pine Lakes HOA meeting was held in the community hall, a low wooden building that smelled faintly of mildew and coffee. By the time Emily and I arrived, the parking lot was already packed. Inside, neighbors filled every folding chair, whispering nervously, waiting for the show they knew was about to unfold. And there she was, Karen Phillips. Seated at the front like a queen on her throne, clipboard in her lap, pearls around her neck, her expression smug and victorious. As soon as she spotted me, her lips curled into a cold smile. Well, the trespasser has graced us with his presence. The room quieted. All eyes turned toward us. I straightened my back, gripping the folder of documents. I'm here to defend what's mine, and to put an end to your lies, Karen. Her laugh was sharp, brittle. We'll see about that. The meeting began with Karen banging a little gavel she'd bought for herself. Order. The first item on tonight's agenda, reassignment of the abandoned property located at 117 Lakeside Drive, my future cabin. Gasps rippled through the crowd. She stood, holding up a sheet of paper. Here's the deed transfer. Proof that I am now the rightful owner. Stepped forward. That's a forgery, Karen sneered. Big words for a squatter. Why don't you let the board decide? I pulled out the original deed, yellowed with age. Here's the real proof. Signed by my father in 1973, notarized, and recorded at the county office. This cabin has been in my family for 50 years. I held it high so everyone could see. Murmurs filled the hall, some shocked, others angry. Karen's face turned red. Fake. That's fake. But then, Grex, the HOA treasurer who had visited me in secret, stood up. No, it's not fake. I've seen that deed. I've seen the tax records. Tom Harris is the legal owner. All heads snapped toward him. Karen froze, her smile faltering. Greg, sit down. You don't know what you're talking about. But Greg stood tall, his voice shaking but strong. I'm tired of this, Karen. You've bullied this community long enough. You knew that cabin wasn't yours. You lied. And you forged papers to steal it? The room erupted in gasps. At that moment, the back doors opened, and in walked Sheriff Daniels. His boots echoed on the wooden floor as he strode forward. "Sorry I'm late," he said, holding up a folder. "I thought I'd bring something for the record." He set the folder on the table and opened it. Inside were copies of the original county filings deed transfers. Tax receipts, property surveys, all proving the cabin was mine. "Case closed," he said firmly. "The property belongs to Tom Harris." The room broke into chatter, neighbors nodding and whispering. Relief flooded me so hard I nearly collapsed. But Karen wasn't finished. Her face twisted, her eyes wild. "No, this isn't fair. I've put years into that property. I mowed the lawn. I watched over it. It's mine." She lunged for the papers, but Daniels blocked her, his voice sharp. "Careful, Karen," she shrieked, pointing at me. "You don't understand? He doesn't deserve it. He left. He abandoned it. I kept it alive. Without me, it would have rotted." Her words rang out, shrill and desperate. The room fell into stunned silence. And then, quietly, I said, "I left because my wife was dying. I spent every waking moment caring for her until her last breath. And when she was gone, I couldn't bear to come back because this cabin held too many memories. That's why I stayed away. But it was never abandoned. It was always my home." The hall went so quiet, I could hear my own heartbeat. Karen's mouth opened, then closed. Her face crumbled, but it wasn't remorse, it was rage. "This isn't over," she screamed. She grabbed her clipboard, shoving through the crowd, stormed out of the hall. The board voted unanimously to reject Karen's claim. Several neighbors even came up to me afterward, offering apologies for staying silent so long. "Karen scared us," one woman admitted. "But you stood up to her, and you reminded us what this community is supposed to be about." Sheriff Daniels clapped me on the shoulder. "You won, Tom, and you did it the right way." For the first time in years, I felt the weight lift off my chest. The cabin was safe. My wife's memory was safe. That night, back at the cabin, I built a fire in the old stone fireplace. Emily curled up on the couch, smiling softly. "You did it, Dad," she said. "Mom would be proud." I stared into the flames, my throat tight. I felt her here tonight. Like she was standing beside me. Emily reached for my hand. She was. We sat in silence, the crackle of the fire filling the room. For the first time in years, I felt peace. The next morning, I stood on the dock, watching the sun rise over Silverpine Lake. The water glowed golden, just like it used to when Sarah and I sat here together. I whispered into the breeze, "We made it, Sarah. We kept our promise." Emily joined me, slipping her arm through mine. "What happens now, Dad?" I smiled faintly. "Now we live. We honor the memories, and we make new ones." I turned to her, my voice steady but soft. "If there's one thing I've learned, this, no matter how hard life tries to push you away from what matters, you have to fight for it. Home isn't just a place. It's the love, the memories, and the people we carry with us. And that's something no one can ever steal." And so, the cabin remained ours not because of deeds or papers, but because of love, memory, and family. Karen may have tried to claim ownership, but in the end, she lost something far greater, the respect of the community she once controlled. As for me, I kept my promise. I returned. I rebuilt. And I found peace again on the shores of Silverpine Lake.